Hey Physique Freaks, how's it going? Scott Tucson on MetabolicMasterpiece.com. Now listen, if you're currently in a cutting phase, trying to burn some excess fat, the nutrition and supplement resource that I'm about to share with you is an absolute must-read, especially if you're already fairly lean and looking to take it to the next level to get absolutely ripped and shredded abs. The resource is a research review by Eric Helms, Alan Aragon, and Peter Fitschen. And Peter, I hope I pronounced your name right there. It's titled Evidence-Based Recommendations for Natural Bodybuilding Contest Preparation, and it focuses on nutrition and supplementation. Now, even though this research review is based on typical practices of natural bodybuilders preparing themselves to get stage ready shredded, I still believe that anyone going through a cutting phase, and especially if you are already fairly lean, can really benefit tremendously by diving into this research review. It's just full of incredible golden nuggets and truthful information that I am certain you will benefit from tremendously. At the very least, I encourage you to read through the abstract and make note of the recommendations of how much body weight you should be losing per week, how much protein you should consume, how much fat you should consume, and carbohydrates, what supplements that are recommended that have support behind them, as well as check out the incredible infographic that Andrew Isaacs put together that really did a phenomenal job of summarizing all the content within this research review. Fantastic, fantastic job. Now, I'd really like you to make note of the kind of language that's used in a research review like this, in a resource where there's no product for sale, where there's no hype necessary, where it's all about seeking the truth based on the evidence that we have currently available to us. For example, let's take a look at this paragraph here. Eating 3 to 6 meals per day with a meal containing 0.4 to 0.5 grams per kilogram of body weight of protein prior and subsequent to resistance training likely maximizes any theoretical benefits of nutrient timing and nutrient frequency. Now, let's take a look at those two words there, likely and theoretical. And this is the big difference between a research review and a hyped up sales letter that is promoting a product. The sales letter may take a look at some of the evidence there and say, well, this evidence supports what our product is based on, and we're going to present this evidence as fact, and we're going to hype this up as the best approach to nutrition. Like, our program follows 3 to 6 meals per day, and because of that, it's going to be the best at burning fat. And the research review is going to take a look at this and say, well, the evidence to base, I mean, their main focus with the research review is truth and presenting the facts as they are. And the facts as they are is that it's simply, all you can say is that it's likely that if you eat 3 to 6 meals per day, that you're going to experience the theoretical benefits of nutrient timing and nutrient meal frequency. And some of those theoretical benefits may be energy partitioning, where when you consume that protein close to your training sessions, most of that protein is going to be used to build your muscle. So that's a theory. They're not presenting this kind of stuff as fact, whereas a lot of products and sales copy will pass that information off as fact and become very misleading. Let's dive more into this research review. Let's take a look at another paragraph here in the abstract that says, increasing carbohydrate intake at the end of preparation has a theoretical rationale to improve appearance. However, it is understudied. Thus, if carbohydrate loading is pursued, it should be practiced prior to competition and its benefits assessed individually. And that's one of the things that I really dig about this research review, is that it really shows where we are in today's age of bodybuilding. It's a real blend between science and real science and evidence-based in the trenches experience. So it's a nice harmonious blend of the two, and they're presenting the evidence that's here, but also not dismissing any of the anecdotal evidence that a lot of bodybuilders, natural bodybuilders, have shared amongst each other for decades and decades when it comes to contest prep. They're not passing this information off as fact. They just say, hey, there's rationale to it, but it's understudied. And in a lot of cases, these guys are curious and they want to study this kind of stuff to prove whether us natural bodybuilders have been right all along, or hey, maybe it was just a bunch of bro science and really didn't have a lot of merit to it. But this is where we see a real nice blend between science and in the trenches experience, and I really, really dig this, and really the encouragement of personal responsibility and awareness. So really trying stuff on yourself and seeing how it works and relating it to the research that's available at hand. And I can't tell you how pleased I am that they included a component on body image disorders. And that's a topic that is incredibly important. It's a topic that I just recently discussed with my buddy and fellow lightweight bodybuilder, Jay Scott. Highly recommend you check out that conversation as well after you're done looking through this incredible research review. Now, one of the main recommendations from this research review is to take a nice gradual approach to weight loss, and their recommendations are somewhere between 0.5 to 1% of your total body weight per week. So for me, as a lightweight bodybuilder weighing 154 pounds and already being pretty darn lean, it would be recommended that I only attempt to lose 0.75 to 1.5 pounds per week. And if I do that, chances are none of that weight loss is going to come from muscle loss. And that's really, really important to me, especially being a lightweight bodybuilder. I can't afford to lose any muscle tissue during a cutting phase. That's the last thing I want to see. Muscle, every ounce of muscle is incredibly precious to me. Now, in the past, I've taken a more aggressive approach, and I'd be curious to know if I did lose any muscle mass during that process. I wasn't tracking what percentage, like how I was losing weight during that time, what percentage was coming from fat, and if I happen to lose any lean body mass in that process. But the bottom line is that this time around, as I'm taking a more gradual approach, it's been a much more enjoyable and sustainable process. And I feel like I'm living life to the fullest. I don't necessarily feel like I'm cutting. I don't feel as restricted as I was. I feel more satisfied. And they talk a lot about satisfaction, whether it comes from the nutrition that you're consuming, satiety? Satiety? I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that word, but I'll leave that little blooper in there. But it's definitely a topic that comes into play. I'm really happy with the gradual approach I've taken, and it's been fun following Dr. Spencer Nadolsky. His contest prep has been outstanding. Nice, slow, steady, gradual approach. So I think we're going to see a lot more of this and a lot less of the more aggressive bro science stuff that that is covered within this report that they analyze, review, and compare to what the evidence actually states. All right, now taking a look at the caloric intake section of this research review, they start off by stating, to create weight loss, more energy must be expended than consumed. How unsexy is that? But it is truth. They move on to say that, however, a static mathematical model does not represent the dynamic physiological adaptations that occur in response to an imposed energy deficit. And that's a real important point. We are complex beings, and mathematical equations don't really give a true representation of everything that is going on during this process. But hey, it gives us a foundation to build upon and to use our own personal awareness to make judgments based on how our body is responding while following those calculations. All right, moving on to the protein section, they discuss the typical protein recommendations and then state that some research suggests that these requirements increase further when athletes undergo energy restrictions. So you're basically eating less in a caloric deficit. Furthermore, there's evidence that protein requirements are higher for leaner individuals in comparison to those with higher body fat percentages. So they move on to share a bunch of different studies here. And what I really love about this research review is that they really dig deep. They dive deep into the research and share the limitations, the strengths of each one, and why these certain research studies would have came to certain conclusions, and why some of those conclusions may be a bit misleading. And then they kind of filter out some of the misleading information, come up with a final conclusion of what seems to be the best optimal recommendation based on all the research pooled together. So I really love that they share these strengths and limitations and really make it easy for the layperson to understand. Their commentary is what I really, really love about this research review, because the commentary really helps me understand the research, and it provides very practical applications into my nutrition strategies as I am cutting right now. Now, there's a lot of conflicting information out there in the fat loss industry and muscle building industry, and when you're reading through these studies here, you can see why. I mean, there's pros and cons to both the high protein and low protein or moderate protein groups, but when you have a great research review that provides an open-minded, unbiased kind of approach, you really get to see the facts for what they are, and you really get to see that there are opportunities for some fitness professionals to really cherry pick data that supports their theories and their products' claims. For example, here's a higher protein recommendation, but then in this analysis here, in their commentary, what do we see here? However, it should be noted that this study did not include a low protein control, and not all studies show a linear increase in lean body mass preservation with increases in protein. So, like I said, I mean, if I'm a high protein proponent, I could have easily taken this information and said, hey man, here's proof, it works, boom, buy my product. But see, these guys, Alan, Eric, and Peter, they look at the research for what it is, they weigh out all the evidence together and see some of the limitations of this particular study, and they share those limitations instead of passing it off as true overall. I really enjoyed the carbohydrate section of this research review, especially how they discussed that low carbohydrate diets can be effective, but how consuming adequate carbs in addition to increased protein with a little bit lower fat intake can really maintain your performance throughout the cutting phase, and that may be more key to preserving your muscle mass than dropping your carbohydrate intake and keeping fat up higher. Now, I gained some pretty valuable insights from the section on dietary fat. And recently I've been hearing a lot of fitness pros talk about the importance of consuming an adequate amount of dietary fat. And usually that falls between 20 and 40%, and some people are recommending more towards that upper end. And their reasoning is to keep your testosterone levels elevated. But according to this research review, a drop in testosterone from a decrease in dietary fat doesn't equate to a decrease in lean body mass. And as I just stated, it seems like as long as you're consuming adequate amounts of carbohydrates, so keeping your carb intake up, and you're consuming adequate protein, elevating your protein consumption, even if you decrease your dietary fat and that decreases your testosterone, that increase in carbohydrates is going to improve your performance, and that's going to have a bigger impact in maintaining your lean body mass. The section on ketogenic diets is another great read, and basically they're stating that more research really is needed. It's great to see they discuss a high degree of variability among individuals, and in their conclusion they state that while the majority of competitors will respond best to the fat and carbohydrate guidelines within this report, undoubtedly others will respond better to a diet that falls outside of these guidelines. So really comes down to awareness, individual responsibility, so careful monitoring about how your body responds each time that you go through a cutting phase, whether it's for a competition, for a photo shoot, or just to get in shape for beach season. And then of course we've got the hot topic of nutrient timing and the whole post-workout window of opportunity there. And basically this research review uncovers that, I mean, most of the studies done have been done on endurance athletes, and there's a big difference between the nutrient timing needs of an endurance athlete and a physique athlete who's looking to build, sculpt, cut, carve out their aesthetic muscle appearance, basically. And they also uncovered that there really is a lot of inconsistencies among the chronic studies who were looking at the benefits, the possible benefits of nutrient timing over the long term. So it looks like there's acute benefits, but long-term benefits, there's been a lot of inconsistencies. And basically the other findings are that what's most important is really making sure that you're getting adequate carbs, calories, and fats at the end of the day, not so much during that window of opportunity pre and post workout. And it's not to kind of take away from the possible benefits during that window of opportunity. It's still a good practice. It's just there's not a ton of evidence to really support what the claims are out there about how important it is to really consume a certain ratio of protein and carbs pre and post workout, even during workout. Meal frequency, pretty simple. Just stick to like 3 to 6 meals per day and you'll do just fine. So just try to avoid the extreme low meal frequencies and extreme high frequencies. And they also talk about the possible benefits of including refeed days compared to just sticking in a steady caloric deficit. But they also pointed out that the research that showed the possible benefits of including those refeed days may have some possible errors in measurements because they used bioelectrical impedance, which has a little more room for error compared to the DXA scans that were used in the steady state, or not steady state, but the steady caloric deficit. I'm sure the supplement section of this research review is going to be a very, very popular section, and for me personally, it was great to see that the very few supplements that I do consume are backed by research. I take creatine daily and caffeine most days pre-workout. It's basically, those are the two staples in addition to whey protein. I have been experimenting with branched chain amino acids, and it's good to see that there are some possible benefits to it, but further research really is necessary, long-term studies to really see the benefits there. Other supplements, beta-alanine and HMB are two supplements that I'm considering experimenting with in the near future. Just these are little things. I mean, this is the minutia. I've been training for over 20 years. I've worked myself so far, and I'm really trying to tap into the last little bit of my natural bodybuilding potential. So these supplements, it really is a minutia. I've been really focusing on the fundamentals, mastering the fundamentals, and making the most out of what I've got. Now, the peak week section of this research review is definitely geared towards the natural bodybuilder who's looking to step on stage or prepare for a photo shoot. And this is where you're going to see a lot of the bro science come out when you hear people talk about creating that shrink wrap effect when they step on stage or get ready for a photo shoot, and they manipulate their water, they take certain supplements, they may take diuretics, or they may manipulate their carbohydrate intake, and there really isn't any evidence to support a lot of these practices. Now, in the research review here, you're going to see them talk about how dehydration really isn't supported, and it can actually be very dangerous to you. And they also state that when it comes to the carbohydrate manipulation, that further study really is needed. And the guidelines in this report may just do the trick for individuals because, as stated in here, you're going to be consuming more carbohydrates than the typical person who is cutting to get stage ready. You see, a lot of people who are looking at contest ready are very quick to drop their carbs. When you follow these guidelines here, you're going to be consuming adequate carbs to help you perform your best in the gym, and it's also going to keep your muscles looking full. And these guys do a fantastic job finishing things up with a section on psychosocial issues. Now, once again, I highly recommend that you listen to the podcast I recently did with Jay Scott, where we talk a lot about the possible potential body image disorders that can develop when you're going through a cutting phase and possibly taking your cutting phase too far and developing eating disorders such as anorexia or bulimia. It's a very, very important topic that is not discussed often enough, especially among male bodybuilders who may not be comfortable sharing their feelings and the experiences that they're going through. So I highly recommend you check out that video, but definitely, without a doubt, read this research review by Alan, Peter, and Eric. It is freaking outstanding. I guarantee the value that you get out of this is going to be far greater than many of the diet books that you may have paid money for. This is free, open source information that is just, it is top notch. And I gotta tell you, reading this really restored my faith in the fitness industry, because it's all about presenting you with the truth, with the facts that are here, telling you what's likely, what's theoretical, what you can expect to happen, what may happen. So it's very open, honest. The commentary is outstanding. This is one hell of a valuable resource that I'm sure you're going to love, and I look forward to hearing your feedback afterwards. Set aside a good hour, take notes, read through it thoroughly. I guarantee you're going to be reading it more than once. It is that good. So thanks Alan, Peter, and Eric for putting together a great resource. Hope you guys enjoy this, and I hope it reaches as many hands as possible, because it can make a very positive impact. So do me a favor, share this video, share this report, share the great little infographic that was put out there by Andrew Isaacs as well. This is valuable information. I can't tell you. It is just, it's sane, simple advice. It's working. It's what I'm following right now, what's working for others too. It's simple, man. It's right there for you. Enjoy. Look forward to hearing your feedback.